Good morning, it's today again. Welcome back to Joseph's Reserves. I'm Joseph, and I store 20% of my income in the form of rare coins and precious metals. I've heard people suggest that you must be rich in order to have a stack. If someone has ounces of silver or gold tucked away, they must have a lot of money. And that's not true. Actually, 4 years ago, I was homeless. My stacking didn't start because I came from wealth. It came because I decided to choose discipline. Congratulations to Irgendwe Anders for being the first comment on my last video. Y'all find him down below to start a conversation. Before I start, I just want to acknowledge something that my regular viewers probably would have noticed. My voice is a lot deeper today, and that actually happens every time I get a minor cold. So when I get a little bit sick, my voice will drop about an octave. That's pretty normal for me. I don't know about y'all, but we're just going to push right through it. So there's this misconception in the precious metals world that stacking is for people with excess income, and that it's only a door that opens up for you after you've made it. Once your income is extremely high and your house is paid off, after the other investments are already making you money. But for me, stacking didn't begin when I was at the top. It began at the bottom. Right before I started stacking, I had absolutely nothing. No savings, no safety net, and no structure. And what changed my life isn't a raise. It wasn't a windfall, it was allocation. When I finally got a real job, I made the decision very quickly. Before lifestyle creeps up, before new expenses, before upgrading anything, I chose a percentage, 20%. And yes, I did get that from the Bible, the book of Genesis, from Joseph in Egypt. 20% of my income would go into precious metals. Not because I was rich, not because that 20% was excess, but because I needed to build a backbone into my financial life. That decision did something very powerful. It forced discipline. Every time I got paid, 20%, it was a non-negotiable. It wasn't based on how I felt that week. It wasn't based on whether silver looked exciting or not. It wasn't based on market timing. It was structure, and that structure built stability. A lot of people look at stacking and assume it requires large lump sums of money. They see monster boxes, large gold bars, pictures of safes of metal, but that's not how most stacks are built. Most stacks are built quietly over time, one purchase at a time, one paycheck at a time, and one decision at a time. Stacking is not about buying large, massive amounts. It's about buying what you can as regularly as you can. Consistency will beat the intensity. You don't need to drop $10,000 on each purchase. You just need a system. Most retirement plans encourage some kind of automatic contribution, and 5% is the most common. Sometimes people will up it to 10%, and they understand something fundamental. Small percentages over a long period of time changes the outcome. I simply applied that same principle to hard assets. I chose 20%. That may not be right for everyone, but here's what matters the most: the habit. If someone can do 5%, that's powerful. If someone can do $100 a month, that is powerful. If someone can only do $25 a week, that is still powerful. It still adds up, and it still builds a great stack. And what destroys progress isn't small beginnings. It's inconsistency. It's emotional decision making. It's waiting for the perfect moment. A lot of people think that stacking is about predicting the future price of silver or timing a gold to silver ratio trade perfectly. So let's take a look at my last two purchases. Last week, I had a bit of a don't tread on me theme. I got this 10-gram bar as well as 2 ounces. Right, so it was 2.3 ounces. If you could do some quick math, you'll find that 20% of my income each week is only $200. Continue that math on and you'll find out I am not making a massive income. I am not an extremely rich individual. When I started stacking, I wasn't picturing this massive generational wealth. It was something I always wanted. I always wanted to pass something on to my children and my grandchildren, But when I started, it was literally about survival. I was homeless and I needed some sort of foundation of finances to lean on. I had a job, but it seemed like the money never stayed in the account. Even when I separated it into my savings account, it was too easy to transfer it over to my debit card and swipe it to buy a burger. And everything changed when instead of putting it into that savings account, I started buying precious metals. That 4 9s bar, these 2 grams, and some grains I'm going to show here in a minute were actually this week's purchase that I made yesterday. Another $200 into precious metals. And this is what it is about. About 2.3 ounces last week, about 2.3 ounces this week. And of course, when I started 3 years ago, the price was much lower. My $200 a week was able to afford something like 6 to 8 ounces every single week. Here are some grains. I really like to collect the grains because a troy ounce was initially based on grains of wheat. There were 480 grains, and this is actually the same measurement we use today. So here I have 1 grain. This is 1/480th of an ounce. And in my other hand, 50 grains, which altogether is really close to about 1/10 of an ounce of silver. The reason I've been so successful with stacking has more to do with how poorly I act with cash than it does with the precious metals itself. For me, if I have a dollar amount in my pocket, my bank account, or wherever it is, it's going to be gone before I get my next paycheck. Right now I get paid weekly, but that doesn't matter. If I set aside the $200 that would have gone into precious metals, thinking that it's going to be there next week, to add another $200 to make my purchase larger, I've tried. It's gone. Every time. These purchases, every single paycheck, every time, no matter what, have forced me into a financial discipline. Before, I was able to pull out the cash or transfer it over to the right bank account so that I could swipe my card and buy that In-N-Out burger or that Chipotle burrito. Whatever it was, the thing I was wanting right then, it was right at my fingertips because I was one button push away from getting the money to that business. Today, if I really want to buy something, I gotta take my coin all the way to my local coin shop, turn that coin into money, and then go back to the business and spend it. 4 years ago, I didn't have the ounces, and I didn't have the money. I just had one decision, and that decision, repeated consistency, created these ounces. If someone watching feels like they're too small to start, or it's too late to begin, or they're too limited in income to matter, understand this. A stack isn't built in a day. It's built in many ordinary days. And the size of your beginning does not determine the strength of your finish. You don't have to be rich. You just have to be consistent. All you have to do is choose an amount. Choose to automate that habit. You have to remove emotion from the process. Stacking isn't about impressing people. It's about insulating your future. And insulating is building layer by layer. If you start with 5%, that's a start. If you start with $20 a week, there you go. What matters the most is that you begin. Because once you begin, the momentum will build. And momentum over time changes everything.
I just made my own line of coffee. Joseph's Reserves It's Today Again coffee. Most mornings aren't dramatic. They're quiet. You wake up, pour yourself a cup, and now you have a choice. Drift through the day or take hold of what's in front of you. That's really what this whole thing's about. Showing up, building good habits, staying disciplined in the small things. Whether that's stacking consistently, learning something new, or just being faithful with what you've been given. I put these words on every bag to remind myself first. Every morning is a gift. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, today. So take a breath, take a sip, and let's get to work. It's today again. You can now write me at Joseph's Reserves, 10160 Highway 242, Suite 800, number 401 in Conroe, Texas, zip code 77385. Make sure to include your information so I can write you back.
If you like this video, make sure to go down and give it a thumbs up, share the video to anyone you think may like it, and go down into the comment section for any questions or comments. Subscribe if you haven't already, but most of all, thank you so much for watching, and just remember, every ounce adds up, so no matter how small, just keep stacking.